Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Joanna Nixon.
I am Dr. Vilma Pacheco Barcia, and this is Open Doors Podcast, two women scientists driven by curiosity, evidence, and compassion.
Today's guest is someone who proves that ideas born in the margins, like in social media, can grow on global movements.
Dr. Jill Morgan, he's a clinical oncologist with expertise in thoracic oncology and cancer prevention, and the founder and executive director of the well-known OncoAlert Network, a global nonprofit organization dedicated to promoting oncology education, combating misinformation, and advancing equity in cancer care, particularly in all countries. So Dr. Morgan was trained in the United States and is graduate of the University of Texas System. Early in his career, he made the unique decision to practice medicine abroad and went to serve for a decade the Division of Medical and Radiation Oncology at Skane University Hospital in Lund, Sweden.
He has also held important leadership roles within the European Society for Medical Oncology, including chair of the Social Media Working Group and membership in both the Global Policy Committee and the Membership Committee, each for 4 years, for 4-year terms. He continues to collaborate with ASCO and numerous other international oncology societies.
He's most widely recognized as the creator of the OncoAlert network. Dr. Morgan transformed what began as professional community on social media into a global platform with tens of thousands of followers, and now as a nonprofit NGO, a recognized voice in oncology, education, and advocacy. Today, he devotes himself full-time to directing OncoAlert and leading its expanding global initiatives.
Since its beginning in 2019, it started as a small colleague-driven network on Twitter, but OncoAlert has grown to more than 37,000 followers, uniting oncologists, nurses, scientists, the whole oncology community together across the globe. Jill, a very warm welcome to Open Doors.
Thank you so very much for having me here. It's an honor and really looking forward to this podcast.
So let's start with you as a person. You are originally from Texas, but you've practiced medicine in Sweden for over a decade. What drew you to clinical oncology and specifically thoracic cancers and prevention?
Well, originally when I came to Sweden, it was more of a exchange. So I never really expected to stay here. So through a series of events, I found myself, I did some of my training at the Karolinska University Hospital, and then I found myself here in Lund University Hospital. So it was here that I found the diversity of clinical oncology, because being a clinical oncologist, you can actually choose between the medical side and the radiation side, which is actually two incredibly different parts, yet equally important in oncology. So I actually became fascinated on all the benefits that we actually have within radiation in every part of radiation, thoracic, in GU, in GI. That's the beauty of radiation oncology, or going into the radiation side of clinical oncology, is that you get to treat all these different types of tumors, and you get to have very, very quick results from your work. And I think that was such a wonderful experience that I just kept on going at it. And the fact that in this world of very expensive pharmacokinetics or very expensive immunotherapies that are coming out there, something as cheap as radiation in comparison can have such huge changes. So I think that was the main reason that I went into the radiation side of clinical oncology. And when it comes down to the cancer prevention part, well, that has always been on the radar. From my time at the National Cancer Institute, from MD Anderson, it's always been around cancer prevention. So that just kind of stuck with me throughout. So all the changes that I've done has always have cancer prevention in the bottom. So I think it's a wonderful thing that when we can make small changes that will definitely make very, very big impact on the outcomes later on.
Amazing, Gil. And also, you've experienced so many changes in your life during those years, when you were training, when you were doing all your work, and then somewhere along the way, you added another full time role. I mean, I've known you in Twitter since forever. I mean, I've studied from all your posts in Twitter when I've gone to exams because you were so up to date. I remember when I was in my first year, I used to say, "Oh my, there's so many new information in oncology. How can I keep up? I need to know breast cancer, lung cancer, GU cancers. You know, when you're a resident, you're not so specialized." And then suddenly, OncoAlert popped. And I was like, wow. I told all my peers, all my colleagues, like, I just found on Twitter this, and this is big information, right on time, right on point. It's amazing. So it's remarkable how you started that. So we want to ask you what was happening in your life when the idea of Oncoler, first sparked in you.
Well, first of all, I am floored and flattered. I hope I didn't say anything too crazy during those times of your studies, and I'm very glad that they helped. But as always, I think each one of us has some sort of imposter syndrome inside of us. So I always feel like, really? So
I did that.
I really, it's wonderful. It's great to hear. But at the same time, it's always very, very hard to believe, but very, very flattered always. Um, I actually, my social media journey actually started around 2015, 2016, and it started with Twitter back then. And I remember I was reporting on congresses. I was together with a really good friend of mine, Matteo Lambertini, and we used to be in these congresses, like in San Antonio. We were taking pictures. We didn't know what we were doing. We were just taking pictures of slides and then just trying to post as quickly as possible on that. These were the early years, but we were trying to do some coverage. Back then, it was not a thing that you were doing to be known or anything else. It was just, for some reason it felt right. And I remember I used to have a 1 hour commute to the hospital. So being in Sweden and coming through ESMO, a lot of my friends were in Italy and Spain and France and the UK. So they were really forced to do the readings, to do the writings. They seem to have that push from within, and it's we have that, but it's a little bit more lax. So I told myself that every single day I was going to find a new article, read it, and then post about it. So that's how it all started for me prior OncoAlert. And then people, just like right now, Vilma, they were stopping me at congresses and telling me, it's like, wow, I read your posts. And I'm just like, really? Why? They weren't supposed to be for anyone else but me. But it was just very refreshing to hear that other people were actually actually reaching these posts. And then I remember I was at one of the ESMO presidential dinners around that time, around some very company that I really admired, and they were started talking about my post. They're like, "Oh, I wake up and read your post every morning." I was like, "Why?" No, but when you hear stuff like that, it's really something that not only is it flattering, but now it's getting to the scary part because I'm just like, what did I say?
And I have a colleague that before the meetings, like you go to a meeting and see other peers or whatever, they went to OncoAlert to get like,
Oh my
up to date, and then they went like, oh, the study, and I was like, you just read it in OncoAlert. I saw you.
Well, that's wonderful. But that's then then we get to the point of so that's how it started, and that's when I saw the potential of social media and what we could actually achieve as an oncology community. So that just kind of got the spark up. Now in 2019, this is very shameful to admit, but while my wife was pregnant, I had the idea of, well, what if we have this network, because a lot of people were coming into social media, and it was very hard to distinguish who am I supposed to follow, who am I not supposed to follow, who's trustworthy. So I thought, well, what if we have a group where it's accounts that we feel are very trustworthy. These are some of the key thought leaders and people that we think should be followed, and that account will follow them, and will in turn repost their tweets back then, and just kind of promote it. So we started like that. It just so happens that a lot of my friends during that time were very great key opinion leaders. So you had Tony Schwery, you had Solange Peters. So it's just like this list of all-stars. We were 15 in the beginning, and we just started going. So we started in AACR 2019, and then it just, we kept it going to ASCO, to ESMO, and we could very easily see the engagement that we were getting from the oncology community, and eureka moment. I mean, there is a need. We need to keep doing this, and we need to make sure that we're giving everybody a voice, and that we are making this easier for people to find reliable oncology information. So that was how it all started. So like everything that is good, it takes a village. So OncoAlert was not me sitting there going, oh, wow, we should have OncoAlert. OncoAlert started because of great friends coming together in an oncology community having a need, and us thinking, okay, we have to do something about it. Now, along this, throughout the years, we've actually had several different mandates that we actually came up with. So the first one, the reason we came across that we started as OncoAlert was because we needed to amplify the oncology information. And as you saw, that's what we were doing, just getting oncology information out there. But then within that first year, it was very easy to see that we were almost drowning out the voice of the patient advocate. And that was not my intention at all. And I saw that at ASCO. So what we did is we incorporated 10% of the faculty to be patient advocates. And then we have internal conversations. So I put patient advocates strategically in each one of those 4 different conversations we have inside. We are not a patient advocacy network. We are very much an oncology network, but we are there to promote the needs and to make sure that we lend our voice to the needs of the patient advocate. And then later on, I don't know if you know the colloquium, which is what we put in. It's a week-long course, congress, whatever you want to call it, completely virtual, that we have in order to kind of make sure that we are providing some sort of education when it comes down to the top trials of the past year. But then I started to realize that all the trials that I was talking about were all trials that were probably benefiting probably 15% of the world, and probably 85% of the world could not afford these drugs. So that's when it kind of clicked into me. It's just like, we're doing this just for a certain percentage, and we're not really taking into consideration the majority of the world and the actual situation of the oncologists in these sports. So that's when we started to think about the global equity in education. So starting to concentrate on how I treat cancer when I don't have the resources. So the final day of the colloquium is now called that, How I Treat Cancer. How I Treat Cancer, and we have people from different LMICs that go and tell their way of not only the struggles that they have, but also their different ways of treating when they don't have certain drugs and the reasoning behind it. Last but not least has been the newest one, and that is the fair treatment of oncologists when it comes to their thoughts on social media. Because what I'm seeing right now is a lot of oncologists are falling victim to a lot of either, if it's not copy pasting, it's stealing their thoughts, and somebody's making money out of it. And I think that is incredibly unfair, because quite honestly, these are people's own intellectual property. And I think this is not, even though it's in social media, that doesn't mean that it's a free-for-all. So that is our latest mandate, is to make sure that we are doing our bit to fight this and make sure that oncologists are getting a fair treatment when it comes to that.
Thanks. That's truly awesome. I'm going to give you another really moment, but when you look back, it started with a seed, one identified unmet need, some colleagues agreeing, and then it grew into a global movement with all these mandates and offering fellowships, and it grew. I'm not going to ask you why. I think you've demonstrated why it started in the first instance, but um, is there anything you would have done differently when you look back? Anything that you would change? Because we look at success always, because now, yes, it's the really, but yes, it is very true. It's global, it grew, and it is growing. But what about those moments that undoubtedly existed that you doubted or things did not go per plan? Anything you would have done differently?
Quite honestly, very seldom do things go according to plan. You have to be flexible, and I think that's the beauty of it. It's just you can't take yourself too seriously when it comes down to these things. You have to, and I think you both know this from your own podcast. You have to love what you're doing, and as long as you're you're sincere, you're humble, and you love what you're doing, and it shows, you won't have any regrets. So I will be completely cliche here, and I say I would do absolutely nothing different. I have zero regrets. Everything has gone exactly the way I would have wanted to happen again. Uh, and the great thing about all this is it happened in my time. I had plenty of people along the way, even early from the beginning. I think from the first 3 to 6 months, telling me, "Oh, this is something special. We could sell it, or we could do this." And it's just like, no, or we should go ahead and find ways to monetize this. It's like, no, that's not what it's about. Not that's not what we're doing. So staying true to what your vision is, and willing to take the consequences. That has been the coolest part of this, because I am not only am I very stubborn, but I've always said, I'm willing to fall on my sword. I don't care, because this is my baby. This is something that I grow daily. So I have to be willing to take the consequences. And as long as you're willing to do that, every single thing that comes out is just a pleasant surprise. If it works out, great. If it doesn't work out, well, then it maybe wasn't meant to work out, or maybe it's not the right time. But that doesn't mean that you should do things differently. You should just be yourself and do things the way that you feel comfortable in doing them, and never compromise on what other people tell you. I don't know if you've seen the newsletter that we come out every week. I had so many people tell me what I should do with the newsletter, how I should change it. That newsletter reaches about 8,000 oncologists every week, and it has an opening rate of 70%. I don't know any newsletter that does that. And quite honestly, it is as simple can be. It's just, that is, it's no frills, and everyone's like, well, you should, well, not everyone, but a lot of people told me you should change it and make it flashier. It's just like, that's not what people want. I would want simple. I would want easy to read. I want something that I can, if I just want a quick review, I can read it in 3 to 4 minutes and I'm done for the week. So that's what you try to provide colleagues. So as long as you don't compromise, and you don't listen to those outside voices, when you feel like, no, that's not the right call, then that's fine. There has been a lot of really good advice that I have incorporated, and it's just like, wow, I didn't think of that. That is really good. I'm not saying being stubborn all the time, but being true to yourself, definitely.
Jill, a lot of the things you've said truly resonate. I think Joanna agrees that the podcast is like our baby too. Like, when you really do things because you love them, you take care of them, and really try to take out the best. So I think it's amazing all that you've explained and how you've done it. It's a true example of how to also innovate. Gil, part of our podcast is also about balancing work life. You know, like when we multitask, when we do multiple things, for example, at that moment, at the beginning, you were still working as a practicing oncologist. And I'm guessing it wasn't feasible when it started growing. I mean, it took time for you to make and help OncoAlert grow. I want to ask you what personal strategies helped you carry both roles at that moment?
Well, quite honestly, yeah. Okay, before OncoAlert, of course, you had the normal clinic that we all have. So while we started OncoAlert and had the full day of clinic, it was tough. It was tough in a fun way. It wasn't tough that I was like, oh my God, I can't deal with this. It's like, no, it was tough in the way that, yes, okay, I go in, I start my morning with that morning tweet, and then, I go on with my day, and maybe I'll post sometime around 11 while drinking a coffee, and then I finish around 5 or 6, and then I'll post again, and then I get home, and then we start with whatever I'm supposed to be doing. If there is Congress coverage, well, I do that or whatever has to be done. But it also has allowed me to see the things that I have to prioritize in my life. And it's not just about OncoAlert, and it's not just about doing this. It's just to make sure that yes, what we are doing is helping the oncology community, and that's wonderful, and it really fills my heart. But then at the same time, that you are not neglecting those people that are close to you, those people that are near and dear to you, because they're very important. They're part of the ways that you cope and you keep your sanity. So during that time, I always have to say that my family has been that rock and that ability to cope when things get too hard. Um, you know, that doesn't mean that it was a lot easier when because of that. It was still the same. You've heard that saying of if you do something you love, you'll never have to work a day of your life. That's completely not true. If you do something you love, you will
Agree.
work twice as long and twice as hard, but you will be very, very happy. And I think that was part of it all. Is that OncoAlert it wasn't energy draining; it was an energy source. It actually allowed me to do something that made me happy. It made me closer to my colleagues in the oncology community, and it helped us to build something because that was a time where we were still building. It's always in a state of building, but that was kind of sort of the beginning. There was a little beginning before that. I don't want to claim it, but I think that we did a lot during that time, especially right around the pandemic,
Mm.
because that's when we were kind of getting together and there was no other way to communicate. So I was very happy to be around that time. And during COVID, I don't know if you remember, but or if you were around to see those, we made roundtables. That was the first ones that we did, and actually those were the only ones that we did. The COVID roundtables were just a response to COVID, and within right after I think after the second week that it had hit in Cremona in Italy, we've had Giuseppe Cordigiano and another colleague from Cremona telling us about what they're seeing. We had the rest of Europe had not gotten it yet, but it was on its way. And the U.S. definitely hadn't seen it, and they were giving us different techniques on how to best strategize, how to help our patients, the breathing, what worked the best because we didn't know anything. Round table which we had on YouTube Live, it had 25,000 views in the first 22 hours. It was incredible. And to have that level of engagement from the oncology community in a time where we needed it the most was incredible. And that showed me it's like, wow, we really have a chance here to make a big difference. And this is not just now, this is for the remainder of OncoAlert. And even there, we touched one of the roundtables was on resilience. So we had an oncopsychologist in there, and quite frankly, four younger colleagues of ours that were put in the middle of the wards, and they were the ones who were taking care of the COVID patients in the wards. And of course, they were burning out because they were not allowed to get sick, because they had to do this. Not only the emotional stress of I am being, right, I'm right there with COVID patients, at times where they just had like a little mask, not even an N95, just, you remember in the beginning when we didn't know anything.
Yeah.
So they had all this exposure. So they had the psychological stress of, well, what if I bring this to my home? They often have little ones. What if I bring this to my little ones? Plus, on top of that, working 60 hours a week and, seeing death left and right, it was really, really tough. So we were able to touch on so many different things on those roundtables. So back to the beginning, yes, it was tough, but when you see the positive impact that you can have on your community, it makes it worth it. It was completely fine, and quite honestly, looking back, at no point did it feel like, oh, this is unsustainable. It was more as like I have to figure out how to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, very true. You feel so re-energized when you do something that speaks to your heart, and actually there are other people on board embracing that. It's truly incredible. You reminded me of the very difficult times during COVID, and oddly enough, where the start of COVID found me is in the States. I was on a study trip to NASA and Microsoft. We started, myself and a colleague, we started with Microsoft. So we were in Seattle, and then we went to Texas, Houston, and that was the end of the trip basically. And then we wondered whether we would make it back before the travel ban. And we did make it back. And my husband is an orthopedic surgeon, his wife a hematologist, and we were hearing what our families were telling us about the situation in the UK with COVID. And yes, it was pretty scary. And my point is that these forums, actually, it was then that you would value most all these forums that you can reach out to your peers within seconds on social platforms, and you could exchange information, and there are no geographical boundaries. The information is just like that. But it was, yeah, really, really difficult times, bringing me to well-being, which is an important topic for us at Open Doors. And COVID challenged all that in oncology and beyond. And I know you spoke a bit about balance, about, the people, our beloved ones that should not feel neglected. What are your personal habits to make sure, and your boundaries, I suppose, to make sure that your work family life is good, or as I say in my coaching, it flows, because it shouldn't be this block is this and that block is that. It should be flowing. Yeah. So
No, you're completely right. I mean, you have to do things that allow you to function, not just be have one side of you, because we're humans. We're complex. We have different sides. So I think for me, maybe the best part is that I have in the mornings. So in the mornings, I go for my morning walk slash jog routine. So I always start off with like a 5 kilometer walk, jog, and I listen to a podcast. So normally this podcast, they're about creating or starting with new ideas. And that always gets me into a receptive state and it gets my creative juices going. And then, as I'm walking, I have my phone and I'll record it in voices if I have ideas, and then I'll revisit them later on because I'm in my head, in a good environment, nice fresh air, and good ideas come from that. So I come home. I always pull a shot of espresso and I start my day around 10. Never coffee before 2 hours after I wake up. So I try to give my body enough time to wake itself up, just so that I don't become dependent on caffeine to wake up. I love caffeine. I love coffee. I have two a day, but I don't want it to be, oh, I need it. I just woke up. I need it. I want my body to know that it's okay. We can get started without having a jolt of caffeine. Uh, One of the things that I don't know if it helps or not, and maybe this is too much information, but when I take a shower, I take a very, very warm shower, and then I do 2 minutes of just as cold as possible, and it wakes you up so much. It's so great.
I
It's
do
so
it too.
great, but it makes you alert, and I'm just ready to take on the day. So I'm just like, I apologize to you and to your listeners for talking about my hygiene routines, but I swear by it. I think it's great. It's a really good way to come out. So this is actually my morning routine, and it's the detox that I need. And then the rest of the time, I keep on going. Of course, I have my family. I can actually have a very good balance between your family and your job, because I think our jobs are not really our identity, but our identity can actually be influenced by our job. So as long as you have that balance between all the things that you love and not just your love, I think it's enough. I think that this can be a little bit different for everyone, but you have to find that one balance that works the best for you and just stick with it.
Jill, I want to officially welcome you to the 5 a.m. club.
Yeah.
There.
The early wakies. Oh my. I completely resonate. And I'm just going to say something to our listeners. I love cold showers as
Yeah.
well. It's so relaxing, and my feet just like, I get the thing and it just gets so cold, and the face, you feel the face go up, like
Yeah,
with a
yeah,
glow.
You know,
It's the cold.
what I read once, and it stayed with me, was that if you think of your childhood, and there's something around, swimming in the sea and it's cold, or rivers and all of that, it's so great because it connects us with that inner child. I can't remember where I read that, and I can't quote it. I can't back it up with science, but I loved it. I loved the sound of it. So yes, but cold showers, yes, they're great. You can do your breathing exercises as well. As well.
If you
You
can
need
breathe,
your
depends
breathing
what you
exercises
are.
actually to cope with it. Yeah. No, you're wonderful.
absolutely.
That's so refreshing. Thank you for that, Gil. I loved it. And also talking about well being, because we've focused a lot of all the routines, and particularly before the recording we were talking about students and peers, and our mentees. And when we're talking about well-being, we also worry about, the new generation, younger oncologists or younger doctors or trainees. Sometimes they want to innovate. My students ask me things that I sometimes can't answer them correctly, because they might want to innovate on some point, and they tell me that they're scared that they're not able to multitask enough or do both things. I don't want to say strictly burnout, because burnout is it's like burnout. It's more associated with disengagement. There has to be like a lot of things for to get to burnout, but I'm talking maybe about the earlier stages where you're still starting to feel disengaged or starting to feel overwhelmed with all your multitasking. So, Jill, I think through the time we've been speaking in the podcast, you've explained perfectly how your career evolved and how you've tasked in some way. So I wanted to ask you, what advice would you give the younger generation for them to start small on that innovation part, on that new discovery part, and how can they keep their well-being at the center?
Absolutely. So, I mean, I think like I remember because in Sweden we have a lot of burnout. That it's very common, but we also have a very good system that a very good safety net that allows for colleagues to who are experiencing burnout to recover to actually have the time to get back into it. So that's a good thing. However, like I remember I was telling a colleague, it's just like, I won't be burned out. And it's just like, because I'm just, I won't let it. And they were just looking at me like I was being very insensitive. It's just like, well, you don't get it. It's just like, I have my barriers and I will say no. And if you are, I think sometimes uh, when you're young, you're ambitious, and you just want to go, 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 and you want to push, 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 push as much as you can because you have to climb, you have to get better, you have to be perfect. I think that's a very toxic mentality that we as doctors kind of dive into, and it's expected sometimes. And quite honestly, my defense mechanism is to say no. This is what you get. If it's good for you, that's great. And if it's not, well, then I guess it's not. Then you're going to have to decide what you want to do, if you want to keep me or let me go. But this is, I'm just a human being, and I have limitations. And if I push them, I know I am definitely going to go into burnout. I'm going to be affected. And of course, those around me are going to be affected. So I think for those innovative colleagues that are out there that really want to start something that is new, well, first of all, make sure that it's something that is fun. It always has to be fun and dear to you, because if you're just trying to think of something because maybe you think it'll help you get to that next phase or the next job or the next this, that's not really uh, maybe it's necessary, but maybe it's not the healthiest thing in the world for you. The best thing that I can recommend is, if you're going to do something like that, do something that A, can be beneficial for you, can be beneficial for the oncology community, but most importantly, that you enjoy. And then when you have that, then you can dive into that, because more than likely it's not going to eat you alive, as opposed to, well, this is expected of me as a resident, so I have to be working 60, 70 hours, and then on top of that, I don't know, doing extra duties. That's not going to help. Make sure that you prioritize yourself, and that whatever you come up with is something that you're interested in, and something that you can develop further, without actually having to beat yourself up for it.
Thanks, and it's yeah. I think a lot of us can put the hand up to say yes, I can get better with my boundaries, and there's something around the expectation that you mentioned, that we as doctors, we've got this hero syndrome, or it is expected from us to go above and beyond, to be the caring ones, be the carers, and there's something around that, isn't it? And I know the younger generations are getting better in terms of boundary setting, whereas my generation and the way I was trained and the expectations were basically working for hours nonstop only on caffeine. And actually, that would be like a badge to carry. You would say, "Oh yeah, it was 36 hours, and I haven't slept, and oh now I'm going to go and study." Which
You almost brag about it.
what exactly? And you would compare, yeah, but I was 37 hours, and oh, I was only 20. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah, you are, yeah, you're lazy.
You ate.
So
I didn't.
Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly. Yes, but I did it without food. I was fasting as well. There you go. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's something around that, and definitely things are changing. The other thing I want to take us to is at the beginning of the conversation you mentioned equity, which is something that we talk a lot about, and equity in education, what people can access, and this is why OncoAlert is breaking a number of barriers. So looking into the future, what are the barriers in terms of equity would you like OncoAlert to break?
I think when it comes down to equity, um, we definitely have to continue to focus on our colleagues that are in low and middle income countries, because quite honestly, uh, being American, working in Sweden, I have had everything given to me throughout my life. I know that. I know how incredibly lucky I've been during my training, during my education, and I know that's not the case for everybody out there. So I think when it comes down to the equity, number one, like something that we've been doing for a very long time, is the coverage of the congresses. So the coverage of the congresses is not because we're trying to compete or we're trying to get numbers. It's because I feel that it is my responsibility that if I can actually attend an oncology congress, that I should definitely be there to give somebody the play-by-play as it's happening of all the new trials that are coming out, just as if they were there. I don't want anybody to feel. I love it when people say, "Oh, I didn't even have to because I just turned on Twitter or X and everything was right there as it was happening, as it was presented. Seconds delay, and that's it." That's beautiful. It's beautiful because these are people that probably cannot get to the Congress. Maybe they're too junior. Maybe they don't have their clinic didn't have the money to send them. Maybe their clinic only sends the senior consultants. Maybe they are thinking about their carbon footprint. There's a lot of possible reasons that people do not make it to congresses. So if OncoAlert can be there to help the equity in the sense of oncology information reaching these low and middle income countries, then we served our purpose. And then when you think of the colloquium, which is it's a 1 week long congress, or it's kind of like a meeting, completely virtual, accessible to everybody. I mean, I guess not in China because there might be some blocks there as far as the access, not from us, from them. Uh, it is something that we are just putting it out there so that our colleagues can have the most up-to-date information of everything that is happening. And as I said, that is something that has changed because now the final day, we are just dedicating the last of the 7 days to low and middle income countries and how they treat and how they can potentially treat specific diseases when they don't have those drugs, whether they be second, third line setting, even first line setting sometimes. So it gives them an option. And then lastly, and I think you mentioned it a little earlier, through support, we've actually been able to start with fellowships. So we've had 11 of these Catalyst fellowships, and these Catalyst fellowships are actually fellowships that are just for colleagues in low and middle income countries, but these are fellowships so that they can actually continue to do research in their country. Because one of the things that I was seeing is that a lot of the fellowships that were available were taking people away from their countries and contributing to the brain drain that was happening in those specific countries. And that's not our intent. It's not about making a country that is having a bad situation worse, but really giving some empowerment to their oncologists so that they feel comfortable enough to build a career within their own country. So there is a lot of things that we can continue to do when it comes down to equity. And it all, right now, the majority is around our colleagues in low and middle income country and how we can actually make their situation better. Because if we make their situations better, we're actually making the situations of the patients better. A better educated colleague is always going to lead to a better treated patient.
Absolutely, Jill. And I think one of the most one of the things that can be worrisome about this is misinformation. Before we close our podcast with you, I would like to ask you about this because misinformation can be a problem in social media.
Mhm.
Before we were talking about how important it is to, find the correct source, find someone that's reliable. That I think that's the best part of OncoAlert. That from the beginning we can trust the information, but it's not always like this. So I think if we should be responsible about what we publish in our social media, physicians, nurses, like all the healthcare providers. What do you think, Gil, could be an advice so we can take care of that, to try to avoid misinformation?
Well, I mean, misinformation is always going to be there. It's a big thing nowadays. It was, as we were talking earlier about the times of COVID, that was definitely a big issue back then. But there are a lot of things that we can do, and I always, whenever I give a talk or talk to any of our younger colleagues, I always say the same thing: do not be afraid of the power of your virtual white coat, because anybody that is out there that has a social media account, we have that level of not only responsibility, but we have that respectability of having that virtual white coat. But with that comes great responsibility, because that means that people are listening, and it's almost like your duty to go ahead and make sure that you are talking or that you are fighting this misinformation. Like right now, I was telling you about the intellectual property of oncologists. That's another thing. So right now, like that's a fight that I'm taking, not because it's fun, not because I like to pick fights, but because it's unfair, and because this is something that is really affecting my colleagues, and it's affecting the oncology community. Misinformation, the exact same thing. This is completely wrong. There's a lot of accounts out there putting out erroneous information, and that's the beauty about misinformation, is that 99.9% of these accounts have something to gain from having this misinformation. So quite often, it's very important to teach our colleagues how to fight this misinformation, because these accounts that spread it, they have a very clear playbook on how to actually attack, how they come. They make you feel like you're being attacked by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, when in reality, maybe it's 10 or 20 or different accounts, but they've done it so much that they can make you feel a little intimidated, especially if you're just an individual oncologist or an individual doctor, that just spoke out, and then they're just, talking really bad things about you. And then you go, well, maybe I shouldn't say anything. You don't engage, but you continue to say the right thing. Well, this is completely wrong. These are the actual stats. These are the actual papers. These are the references. I am a medical doctor. Anybody can say it's right here. These are the facts, and the facts will always be the facts. And what people will listen to, well, that's a different story. But if we don't speak out, then we don't really leave the chance for that what if. Yes, maybe the people will listen to them, but maybe the people will also listen to you. But if you don't say anything,
Yeah.
then they will only listen to them, because that is the only voice that is out there. So that's why I think it's very important to have that, to really take it as a responsibility once you have these like an actual social media account, because you can actually benefit a lot of people in really great ways just by being present.
Fully agree. Thank you. Thank you so much, Sil. So, our favorite part. Before we close, we always like to end with a quick reflection round. It's a rapid fire answers, big insights.
What is a quote that keeps you going these days?
Ooh, oh, that's a good one. Um, don't forget to look back. And that is because we are so focused on what we are doing and where we're going and what we're going to do that we forget to look back at all we have done. And every once in a while, it's not bad to look back, pat yourself in the back, and be proud of what you've done because it's just we're so focused on what we're not that we forget everything that we have accomplished to actually get to where we are and how great that is and how this took us a long time and a lot of sacrifice, so be proud of that. And I guess the other one will be like family first, because no matter what I do it has to be with my family in mind. I have to make sure that I not only prioritize them but that whatever I'm doing that for them, not because I want to be better or because I want to be famous or known. It doesn't matter. If it's not really affecting my family in a positive way, then I really got to think about it twice because maybe that's not the right thing to do.
If you could write a letter to your younger self, what would it say?
Ooh, I think I would say be patient. Um, you're going on the right path. It might not look exactly the way that you thought it was going to look, but you will be incredibly fulfilled with where you end up and the people that you will have around you.
Anything you can share comfortably with us, although we know about the showers now, but
I was gonna say,
anything in addition to the cold showers and the hot showers that is not common knowledge about you, and it will come as a surprise. Although nothing will come as a
well,
surprise after the shower, but we can try. Sorry, Il.
Oh, we all
Oh,
like cold showers.
oh yeah.
it's
We
a cold
shared that
shower
as
club.
well, and yeah, we are, yeah, now, yeah, I know.
No, well, I guess one of the things that most people think is that I am very outgoing or okay, yeah, to a point. But although I appear online quite a bit doing the roundups and the webcast and all these other things, I'm actually fairly quiet, and that is mostly because I have learned that there's actually more to learn by listening than by actually constantly talking. So every time I hear my voice, when I post something or there's a roundup, I just roll my eyes, almost like saying like, "Oh no, not this guy again." It's just so I'm getting quite sick of my own voice.
Yeah. So I'll say something here because there's a perception about, people talk about personality types and labels and introversion, extroversion, or being an ambivert. And me, and maybe Vilma, you can resonate because I'm Greek. I was born in Greece. So Mediterraneans, we move hands when we talk, and that to some people is thought to be extroversion. But believe it or not, yes, of course, I'm very expressive when I talk, but I'm not an extrovert myself, so I can hear you basically. Yes, we can appear like that, but that doesn't mean that yes, we are the loudest people in the room. Yeah.
Absolutely not.
And who's the next person you hope to open a door for?
Ooh, that is a good one. When you say open the door, what do you mean?
Help
Yeah.
or
Okay, good.
It's yeah, metaphorically. Yeah,
or
yeah.
a company?
Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, quite honestly, anyone and everyone. And I think anybody that knows me and knows OncoAlert knows that that's what we're all about. So I constantly I'm getting emails or messages from colleagues asking, "Do you know anyone here? Can you help me there?" And if you can, you should. I think that that's the beauty about an oncology community that is as welcoming as ours, is that we should use all the resources we have to help as many people as we can. Because quite honestly, that's the way that the world goes round. Maybe today is for somebody else, but maybe in the future you're going to be the one that's going to need help, or maybe you have received that help before. So you should always be open to help anyone that you can possibly can.
What would you tell that person, your future self? What letter would you write to them?
I'm sorry. That's
I'm sorry for the cold showers that you had to suffer. Oh my goodness.
The 5 a.m. club.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but sorry for all the things I said yes to, for everything that I put you to, because you're probably a lot busier than I am now.
oh, very good. I love this. Oh, I
Sorry
love this
for the
letter.
emails, for the 1,000 emails per day.
Exactly. It's just sorry for putting you in the spot, but I thought it was the right thing to do.
Very good. Thank you so much for joining us today. I've learned a lot and you've inspired me. And I can speak on behalf of my co-host here. I think you've inspired us to keep going with the podcast. I think the seed we planted, we believe we should continue. We believe that speaking about concepts that are sensitive, about equity, leadership, burnout, well-being in oncology and beyond is really important. So thank you so much for joining us today.
Complete pleasure, and thank you so much for having me. And like I said, this it's not lip service. If there's ever anything that I can do, or even OncoAlert can do to help out, or if there's an initiative, oftentimes there are synergies. There's things that you could do together. Please do not hesitate to ask. I mean, we are part of this great oncology community, and it's that what keeps us going. And we're here to help each other. And please count on this friend for anything you might need.
100%.
Thank you so much, Jill. This conversation reminds us, as Joanna was saying, why we came together. And OncoAlert is a wonderful network that brings together countries, professions, and platforms. And it really helps make oncology more human, more accessible, more equitable, and widely more connected. I think that's empowering. Change can begin with a post, can begin with one conversation, and can begin with one connection.
Yeah. And to our listeners, keep opening doors for yourselves and for others. This is Dr. Joanna Nixon.
I am Dr. Pacheco Barcia from Open Doors Podcast.
And remember, you belong in the room.
You belong in the room.